Let's now help you brush up some details of logic and set theory, which will be required throughout the course whenever we do system specification or refinements. Unfortunately, I simply just cannot repeat your entire earlier math course about the subjects which I'm going to review. So it would be your call, your responsibility to actually go beyond the lecture to actually find maybe the examples that used to be discussed in your math courses. Of course, you are more than welcome to maybe join the Q&A, the weekly Q&A, which I'm going to host myself, and ask me maybe a clarification questions or maybe for more examples if that's really needed, or just drop by my office hour or just reach out to me. I'll be more than happy to actually answer you. But due to the length of the lecture, I can only cover this much in the slides. Hopefully that's understandable. All right, let's now try to review first of all the learning outcomes of this lecture. Okay. This module is designed to help you review, meaning that these stuff should have already been learned by you in the earlier math course, but it's always good to do some repetition and brushing up. We're going to review propositional logic, especially the implication of a logical operator. We want to clarify its intention. And also predicate logic, specifically universal quantification versus existential quantification, and also how we can prove or disapprove each of the quantifications. We have some strategy over there in general for you to review. And we're gonna review sets, relations, and functions. Okay, especially for relations, we're gonna review the various operations on the relation, like a relational domain, image, the domain, range, image, domain restriction, domain subtraction, range restriction, range subtraction, and etc. We got many operations over there to discuss, and I'll also go over some running example together with you. And also for the sets, of course, the power set notation is also very important to review, which we also may need to use when we do the refinements or specification. And for functions, we have to clarify the different specialized kinds of functions, injective, surjective, or bijective functions, right? That's something I'm pretty sure you have heard of from your earlier math courses, so now it's good time to actually review them before we apply them again in this course. All right, so the first one to review will be propositional logic. Okay, let's now see what a proposition is. A proposition is simply a statement of claim that must be of either true or false, but not both, right? For example, let's say York University is a higher education institution. Is it true or false, right? Whenever you make a statement, it must hold either true or false. It cannot be anywhere in between. The middle should be excluded. Basic logical operands are of type Boolean, meaning that you can only manipulate true or false value for each operand, right? True or false. Okay. And then we use logical operators to construct compound statements. So whenever you want to go anywhere beyond, let's say a single true or a single false, you have to use you got to use some operators. It's also true for the case of the predicates, by using the quantifiers to make a more sophisticated statement to express your ideas. Let's see what the operators are for propositions. So we got unary logical operator negation. That's a truth table. Very straightforward. You simply flipped from true to false, false to true, and this is the mathematical symbol. Later on, we're going to introduce to you a tool that we're going to use for specification and refinement purpose. In order to use the tool, you cannot necessarily just simply copy and paste the symbol over here to the tool. You have to put some ASCII character from your keyboard. So for the review purpose, for some operators, I will tell you what the ASCII character should be, but for some of them, I may not, just for cleanness of the presentation. But I'll definitely give you some summary later. But on the paper, this is what you have to write for negation, right? I'm pretty sure you have seen this symbol before. And for the binary logical operators, we got this following list. We got conjunction, right? We got disjunction, and we got imbrication, and also we got equivalence. Usually equivalence is actually for you to state maybe some axiom or maybe some theorem or maybe some lemma you actually want to prove. Whenever you want to prove it, the strategy to prove it is by using the if and only if concept, which means you're going to prove implication from both sides. You want to say maybe something implies something else, and also something else implies something, right? Both directions. That's the truth table, right? I'm pretty sure you have seen that before. I just want to point out to you very quickly. Since we got P and Q, that's why we got 2 times 2. We got 4 rows to to enumerate all the combinations for true and false, right, between the two Boolean variables. So we got true, 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 false, false, true, and false, false. Straightforward. And for conjunction, the principle I remember by myself usually is the only way to make conjunction true is when both operands over here are true, when both P and Q are true. Otherwise, if any one of them is actually false, or for both of them are actually false, in that case, the conjunction result will just be false, right? Easy for conjunction. What about disjunction? Kind of symmetric. The only way for you to make disjunction false is when both operands P and Q are actually false. Otherwise, if either or both of the operands are actually true, in that case, disjunction will just be true, right? Hopefully, I don't need to write this on the paper. If you need it, please take notes, right? I hope that's clear enough for you to review what the conjunction is, what the disjunction is. And for implication, I'm gonna leave that to a separate slide later to actually discuss its intuition behind. Maybe that's the more confusing operator for you to understand exactly what it really means. I'll give you some intuition, and then I'll give you some alternative terms to calling this operator rather than just implication. Okay, I'll get there. And that's the if and only if. If and only if and equivalence, they're really comparing just to see if P and Q are actually the same. So if true and true are the same, so the only place you can see true is when both are either both true or both false over here, right? You can see when both are false, then that'll be true, right? Because they're equivalents. Otherwise, if the two Boolean variable have different values, true versus false, or false versus true, in that case, they are not equivalents. And if and only if, it accordingly will also be false, right? Hopefully everything is clear to you. Maybe something you already know very well. But the only thing I would like to spend a little bit more time on would be the implication. Okay, let's now take a look. I want to give you some intuition about what implication really means. And the analogy I like to give is about signing a contract. You know, so let's say upon graduation, you're going to find a job, maybe for software engineer. In that case, you have to sign a contract with your future employer. In that case, you can understand how the contract is going to be interpreted. Either the contract is honored, or if the contract is breached. Right? That's the analogy we can use to understand implication. Let's see how. But this is how you write it. I'm pretty sure you know how to do it. It's a double arrow. But I think for some of you in your early math course, maybe some instructors may actually write maybe a single line arrow. I think that'll be okay for your own purpose. But I would say whenever you are tested, I would say go follow the notation that's mentioned in the slides, right? Just be consistent for everybody. Simply pronounce as P implies Q. That's straightforward. And let's review some terminology. We say the left operand over here, the antecedents, or the assumption, or the premise, right? So these are all the interchangeable terms you can use for referring to the left operand for implication. What about the Q? You can call Q the consequence or the conclusion. Typically, I will only say antecedents versus consequence. That's what I usually would say. But sometimes I might use other terms. Just make sure you know what I meant. Like which operand I'm referring to. Either P or Q in the implication. Okay. And we want to let's now draw some analogy. We want to compare the truth of this particular proposition. P implies Q. So P can be either true or false. Q can also be true or false. And overall, implication can also be evaluated to true or false. But what should be the connection between the operand values and also the overall evaluation result? Let's try to draw the analogy using a contract. Okay, like what I said. Let's say we're trying to sign a contract. Let's say the antecedents over here, the P over here. Let's think about that one there. It's just about some promise terms, right? Something that's actually promised to you. That's kind of your benefits as a person to sign the contracts. And let's say the salary. Whenever you sign a contract for a software engineer position, and they should really promise you maybe some salary, maybe 150K per year, for example, right? That's something that should be exactly on the contract. It should be no more and no less, right? And what about the Q over here? You can think about the consequence over here as the obligations, meaning that once you get paid by the certain salary as stated in the contract, you have to fulfill certain duties. For example, you have to make sure you work for about 8 hours a day, and also you want to make sure you meet the deadline set by your supervisor, and etc. Right? Depending on the nature of your software engineer job. Right? So now we got the P, being whether or not the salary is actually paid as stated in the contract. And also Q is whether or not you actually work according to what's really required by the contract, right? Hopefully that's clear about the analogy we are looking at. And let's say this. Let's now talk about the truth table itself. And we're going to go row by row somehow, right? When the promised terms are actually met, what's going to happen in the contract? So let me just show to you, review this table over here, right? Over here. When the promised terms are met, meaning that P over here is actually true. So now we are talking about these two rows over here for implication. Let's not worry about the other two rows. If the contracts are actually, if the promised terms are actually met, meaning that your employer does pay you that much salary every year. In that case, either you have fulfilled your duties or you have not fulfilled your duties, right? In the case you have fulfilled your duties, that means the entire contract will be honored. In that case, that's why implication will just be true. Good. And in the case where you got paid, but you didn't really fulfill your duties, in that case, it would be considered as a breach of the contract, of course. In that case, maybe your employer might decide to terminate the contract or simply let you go earlier, right? Hopefully, so far, the two rows make complete sense to you, right? So that's why you don't really have to memorize the truth table. It might work when you are still young, but as you actually grow more experience, you definitely don't want to rely on your memory. You want to really rely on the rationale behind that you really have truly understand. All right, that's good. So that's about these two rows. Let me move this away, and then we'll discuss the remaining two rows in a moment. Okay, so we'll talk about you will be honored if the obligation is fulfilled, right? Okay, these two rows, exactly, right? You will be breached if the obligation is violated, right? It's when the obligation is fulfilled. This is when the obligation is violated. Okay, hopefully so far so good. And what about the remaining two rows for the table? Let's take a look. And for the remaining two rows, we are talking about the promised terms are actually not met, meaning that your employer actually promised to actually pay you a certain salary, or they also promised to give you certain benefits, maybe health care, maybe dental care, or maybe eye care, and etc. Right? Let's say they promised the term, but the terms were not really met. You simply just cannot really get that benefits as promised. In that case, you can see the P over here being false over here and false being over here. Okay, given that the promised terms are simply not met by the employer, in that case, overall, the contract will not be considered breached, because somehow you can think about the contract is really considered as invalid because the promised terms are actually not met. It's not really like it's not really like a breached. The only way we consider the contract being breached is when you got paid but you didn't do the job. But now let's say you didn't really get the benefits as stated on the contract. In that case, it doesn't matter if you still actually go ahead to be so loyal to your employer and do the job, or you simply don't do anything, because you don't think you actually got the paycheck that you deserve. Doesn't matter which way, but overall, the contract will still be considered as not breached. In that case, it would just be true. Think about the analogy here. Only false when the contract is breached. If the contract is not breached, it will just remain true over here, right? Just remember the story over here. If the story makes sense to you, that will definitely help you construct a truth table for implication whenever you forget. All right, enough discussion. Let's now talk about slides. All right, fulfilling the obligation or not, whether you do the duties or not, doesn't matter. Overall, the contract will still be considered as honored or not breached. So you can see when the P is actually false, doesn't matter what true and doesn't matter what Q is. In that case, it will just be true. All right. So this slide here really provides some intuitive story about the rationale behind the implication. So far we have covered all the logical operators for proposition.